Welcome to the Rainmaker Multiplier on Demand, a podcast for leading financial professionals, or rainmakers, and their teams that offer support for securing a successful future. From marketing help to staffing structure, listen and subscribe for actionable insights from advisors and skilled professionals alike.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jason Smith, your host of the Rainmaker Multiplier podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Michael Kitces. And unless you're brand new to the industry or been living in a bunker with no media, you probably know who Michael is. But Michael's one of the most recognized thought leaders in financial planning. He serves as head of planning strategy for Focused Partners Wealth and is the co-founder of XY Planning Network, AdvicePay, and several other platforms that help advisors grow and scale. Known for his Nerd's Eye View blog at kitces.com and host of the Financial Advisors Success podcast, Michael's insights reach hundreds of thousands of advisors every month. He has dedicated his career to helping financial professionals build stronger practices, serve clients better, and embrace the tools and communities that drive growth. Awesome.
Amen. Sounds great. I like that. I'm going to try more of that.
Right?
It sounds fun.
So good. So good. Yeah, this is awesome, Michael. It's funny, you and I got on a phone call a few months back and we're like, wow, how is this the first time we've talked? And, how haven't we run into each other in front of, at industries? But
we're a very big, small industry, right? We don't often get to meet, but everybody knows everybody, or if not, they know people who know people.
Right.
It's the whole thing's 2 degrees of separation. We don't need 6 degrees for this.
It's so good. Michael, you know what? I'm going to if you don't mind, kind of go back to the beginning. I think I would just love the people to listen and learn about how'd you even get into this industry, right? What was your background? How'd you get introduced? Was it at college or post-college or yeah.
So my origin story to the industry was a fairly kind of random landing, as it were. I was a psych major, theater minor, pre-med student at a liberal arts college up in New England. And all I really figured out in college was that I didn't want to do psychology, theater, or medicine. Basically the deal with my parents was, we will make college happen for you, but it ends when you graduate. So you are figuring yourself out at that point. I think I was allowed to move home for 3 months as a launch pad, if necessary, paying rent. Otherwise, that was the deal. So I was graduating. I needed a job to pay bills, and I didn't want to do anything I studied in college. So I just had to find a job. And through indirect introductions, actually from my father, as it turned out, I landed in a life insurance agency straight out of college, for the pitch that the industry had 25 years ago. We want hardworking, enterprising folks. There's great unlimited income potential if you can put in the work and the time to be successful. I'm like, I'm a really hard worker. I find the finance stuff interesting. Sure, I can do this. And so I graduated Memorial Day weekend of 2000, right at the market peak. Graduated on Saturday, packed everything I owned on Sunday, drove home Memorial Day Monday, and reported for work on Tuesday morning to a life insurance agency.
Wow.
So I had no finance background, no econ, money, anything background. I needed a job, and the pitch sounded good. And I was 22 and said, why not? Let's try it.
That's great. And how long? That's funny. We both started out on the insurance side. A lot of great financial advisors and professionals in our industry, started out on the insurance side of the business. I think it teaches a lot of school of hard knocks kind of lesson, early on.
Oh, yes.
Tell me about that experience. Yeah, and how long it lasted.
Well, look, that in the industry did not last long for me. So as I found, I'm an okay salesperson. I'm a terrible prospector.
Yeah.
Right. I'm an introvert by nature. So prospecting was awful, right? That was still, we were pre do not call list. So it was cold calling in the good old traditional sense. If you don't want to cold call, you're welcome to cold knock. The managing partner of the agency I was at was a guy who started in the 1960s selling insurance door to door. And the dude could still, like, at the drop of a hat, he could go into his like door to door sales pitch spiel thing. And like, it was amazing. It was magical. Like, I totally understand why he was wildly successful. He just had a natural gift for this. He's one of these people like, he's going to knock on your door 5 minutes later. You're going to be in your living room talking about whatever is above your mantle. And you're like, how did we get here? I'm not even sure why I invited this stranger into my house, but he's so lovely. And I'm having a great conversation.
Right.
So that was my introduction to financial planning and the CFP side of the business. And I gravitated towards initially because candidly, I was just retrospect, like I was struggling to prospect. I was struggling to sell the sort of like, this is my, I've got a hammer. I just trying to find nails kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was much more holistic and problem solving oriented by nature. I think it's why I was interested in medicine originally. And so I gravitated towards this financial planning thing.
Yeah.
And then kind of stuck with it for the 24 plus years since. So it's it's a strange, way that the paths kind of weave. You never quite know how the career path is going to play out. There were certain sort of true north things to me, as it were. Like, I've always been problem solving. I've always been service to others. I've always been a reach impact person, which I think is how I got from working with clients to building planning departments to launching platforms to building B2B businesses for advisors, right? To me, they're all sort of escalations in our reach and impact back to the profession, because I'm just one of those, like, I hope to at least make a small dent in the universe with my contributions, with my time on Earth. That's just how my brain's wired. And it just so happens that finance and financial planning was the industry that I happened to express that in, and now love and am fully engaged with and can't imagine doing anything else.
Awesome. That is so great. So you wear a lot of hats, Michael. Let's kind of unpack it a little bit of like what all you got going on. So head of planning strategy for Focus Partners Wealth, right?
Yep.
So tell me about that, kind of just background, that company. How'd you get there? What's that look like? Yeah.
So, I got there indirectly. So I bounced around the industry in my first couple of years. I was at the life insurance company for a while. I was an independent broker dealer for a while. I landed out of sheer dumb luck at an RIA in the mid 2000s before anyone really knew RIA was going to be the future. And frankly, I didn't even understand the difference of the channels. I was just freaked out. Like, if I take this job, my Series 7's going to lapse. Like, I hope this works out. I was like counting down on the calendar, like how many days to decide this job has worked out before my Series 7 would lapse so I could go back and rescue it again if I needed to. Firm turned out great. That wasn't a problem. I ultimately stayed there for 17 years. And a wide range of roles, but the bulk of the early years was as their director of financial planning, building out a planning team, creating their planning process, grinding through and delivering, I know what it was, probably 8 or 900 financial plans. I don't think I quite got to 1,000 cumulatively, but just like, we were in a huge growth phase. The firm went from under 200 million over 800 million in first 4 or 5 years that I was there. And so by then, we were one of those firms that was a couple $1 billion, which makes it a little bit difficult to sell and transition internally. So they ultimately sold and exited to one of the larger firms. And when they made that transition, I also shifted to say I wanted to find a new home that just fits well with some of the other things that I'm doing that we'll probably talk about in a bit, of Kitces.com and advisor education, the rest. So I went to a firm called Buckingham Wealth Partners. Which was one of another one of the early RIAs, actually going all the way back to the 90s, that had built a very, very successful national firm, was one of the early players with Focus Financial back in the day that had deployed the dollars well to grow rapidly. They were founded by a bunch of CPAs. And so for a lot of folks that have followed our content, I do a very heavy tilt towards tax and retirement in our content. So I'm like, it's a firm that's planning centric, founded by CPAs. They weren't doing tax prep anymore, but like deep tax planning, deep financial planning was woven into the culture. And so just like, these are my people. The management team was all in their 40s, which was great because I was in my 40s. I'm like, this aligns. I was at 17 years in my prior firm. My goal was to be at the next firm for longer than 17 years.
Yep.
And so that was where I went. And so for anyone who follows the news, Focus was an external funder for many of firms. Then it got taken private by a PE firm. Now they're kind of integrating the disparate firms into one, of which Buckingham is becoming one of the major hubs. So the firm name got rebranded from Buckingham Wealth Partners to Focus Partners Wealth, but like the core people and the leadership team are all the same. And so I've been evolving that way for a long time, and I kind of made it a clean break to fully transition to that when I went to Focus, because they've got a zillion advisors. Like, you don't want me. I'm like traveling all over the place anyways. There's a whole bunch of advisors who are awesome, and their job is just to be there and serve you fantastically well. So candidly, clients get better served when they work with Focus advisors that are not me anyways.
Right. Yeah, Michael, it's so cool because I know you're reading the Rainmaker Multiplier book. And I hear a lot of the undertones of kind of like just some of the things you're saying right now. And it's funny because you kind of went from the backstage of supporting the founders that were doing all the business development throughout your first 17 years. And then your new chapter, right, of your career is now you're the one in the front stage.
Oh, yeah.
Rainmaker.
It's very strange to have made that transition. I mean, I'm 25 years in now. So I essentially kind of look at it in sort of decade epochs that the first decade was very backstage. The second decade, all of a sudden business development started showing up, and I shifted. So I actually became a partner in the firm in, 2012, because I was doing all this business development at a firm that I went to because it was a bunch of founders who did business development. I wouldn't have to do any business development. Right. And then like 10 years later, I'm like, oh crap, business is starting to show up. Apparently I'm getting good at this. And now down to like the third decade, I guess, that I'm in now over the past 5+ years, where most of my time and work is leadership and management of the team and business development and driving growth, and doing that in a way that is scaled to our systems, which just if I want to get technical is much more marketing-based business development than sales-based business development, because sales-based bottlenecks around me.
Yep.
And marketing and building brands is something you can create systems and process and train people into that becomes replicable beyond you, right? So now, even a lot of our internal conversations is, we're building the Kitces company, not the Michael company. The Michael company is me. The Kitces company is the trusted source brands that we represent.
Yep.
And so in practice, even on our platform now, I wrote 100% of the content for 10+ years, and I write about 2% of the content now.
Yeah. And it was like, it sounds like you primarily were focused B2C, and then over time it's evolved to where now a lot of your time is, or even predominantly B2B, right?
Yes, very much so. For me, that's the kind of reach impact driver. I actually got an opportunity fairly early on in my firm to become what essentially would have been like CEO, successor, heir apparent to this growing firm. And, we were 800 million of assets, probably 600 clients or so, because average client size was a little over 1 million back then.
Yeah.
I had this opportunity. I was like, I'm going to help a couple hundred clients do their thing. I'm like, that's cool. Like, it's a lot of people. We're helping them in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
But I was starting to do some speaking and writing for the industry. I was doing still a good amount of training and developing our advisors as we were hiring them. And like, every advisor I help is like 100 clients they help. So why would I take 100 clients when I can work with 100 advisors who help 100 clients? That's like 10,000 people that get served. So like, I can build a platform to train thousands of advisors. Right. And now we're helping hundreds of thousands of people. So it's still a framework that I talk about a lot internally with our team today, that I think about the work that we do, particularly from the kitces.com end, with this kind of 100x multiplier effect, right? Every advisor we help is 100 clients downstream. who get help. So we're now well over 20,000 advisors that like pay for our member section with all of the CE content for all the IRCE and CFP and all the different things that we do.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I love it. You're speaking my language. I mean, that was the whole reason, we started C2P was, there was only a certain amount of people we could affect in the Cleveland area. And it was why I transitioned from B2C to B2B and helping financial advisors through the bucket plan and multiplying themselves as the rainmaker. So very purpose driven. We have the same kind of stadium graphics that we track of how many people we help. So cool. Tell me about XY Planning Network. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. So XY Planning Network, now like XYPN for short. So again, like I have to put things in context of their time. So we launched XYPN in 2014.
Okay.
So we're about 2 years out from the arrival of the robo-advisors, right? Betterment and Wealthfront.
Yeah.
So version 1 of the robo-advisors was, technology can do all these portfolio things. There won't be any financial advisors in the future. That became very clearly not the case, like quite quickly. And then the dialogue shifted to like, okay, well, baby boomers like humans and will keep working with advisors, but the younger generation, like, millennials and Gen Z are, technology adopters and smartphone natives, and the future, all the young people in the future will just do all this through robo platforms.
Yeah.
Because, you can make a simple portfolio with a robo. You don't need an advisor to do it. Yeah. And the challenge I had to this at the time is just like, look, I mean, I guess time stamping it in 2014. So I'm like, I'm a 30 something. And I think all the stuff y'all are saying is BS. Pardon the language. Like my life is not simple, right? The industry view is you work with like retirees because they have a lot of complexities, and you can kind of do like a simple dumbed down portfolio for young people because their stuff's simpler.
Yeah.
I'm like, my life's not simple as a 30-year-old. I have different complexities than retirees for certain. Those were my clients at the time. So I'm like, they certainly have different needs, but young people don't have simple financial planning needs. Like, I'm getting married, I'm buying a house, I'm starting a business. I was actually starting more than one business at that point.
Right.
I've got tax planning issues. I've got insurance dynamics to deal with. I've got there's so much stuff going on. Like, my situation was not simple. I had no portfolio to manage because I was putting all my money back into my businesses and the ventures that I was starting, but I was making a good income. Like, I could easily pay a financial advisor quite well, but you just have to, you can't charge me AUM fees because I just don't have I don't have any assets to manage.
Right.
It doesn't work. And I said, so and I'm looking at my peer group who's all basically the same thing because I'm a 30 something with friends with 30 somethings.
Yeah.
Like the industry has this wrong. Like these are all folks who need financial planning. They just can't be served by an AUM model. Nothing against the AUM model. It's like AUM only works if you have A to M. So if you don't have A to M, you can't build a pricing model around AUM. You need a different way to charge.
Right.
And so the big kind of stake that we put in the ground was, look, if you want to work with people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, still in their working years, we manage our household expenses on a monthly basis, right? Rent and mortgages are monthly and everything else runs around that as well. And paychecks are monthly or biweekly. So if you want to work with people in that age cohort, you need a business model that aligns to how their household cash flow works, because they're going to pay from cash flow. They're not paying from assets, which means you have to build with a subscription model.
Yep.
And so we put this big old flag in the sand and said, all the industry dialogue that robo is the future for millennials is wrong. You can serve Gen X and Gen Y successfully with financial planning.
Yeah.
They're willing to pay for it, but you need to do it with a subscription fee that aligns to their ability to pay in their household cash flow. So XY Planning Network was Gen X and Gen Y. Now it's kind of fun because it's 10 plus years later and Gen Z's coming along. So love how brands evolve, but XYPN for short, because not just Gen X and Gen Y anymore, was all built around how do we help advisors build subscription financial planning models working independently with consumers in very financial planning centric models? So we were like, you have to be a CFP, you have to be fee only, you have to be building around this particular model to be able to work with the organization, but then we'll build all the things that you need to do that successfully. So, we put together a full tech stack of CRM and financial planning software and the rest, negotiated custodial relationships, which back then was really hard because if your clients had any money, but not a ton of money, you weren't above the what was commonly a 10 million AUM minimum to get onto most custodial platforms.
Yep.
So, and if you're going to work with younger clients, like you may not be at 10 million for a long time. You could charge them thousands of dollars and make $1 million in planning fees,
Right.
but they're not going to have much AUM for a while because even when they make money, they buy houses, they save for college, they start businesses, they do other things with the cash flow, then put it into a portfolio necessarily. So we negotiated all these arrangements, put together a technology package, not technically an original launch, but within a year and a half, build out a whole compliance division to register firms, how get your firm started, get it running. Because the reality is if you're building a planning centric model, not an asset centric model, you're not SEC registered. You may never be SEC registered.
Right.
You could have millions and millions and millions of dollars of revenue and still not be SEC registered because it's not asset based. It's subscription fee based.
Yeah.
So we ended up becoming what I think still is today is probably the largest registrar of state registered RIAs in the country.
Okay.
And so now there's 2,100 advisors in XYPN, mostly still doing subscription fees, but now some have branched out. Some do subscription, some do hourly, some are advice only, some blend in AUM fees. But nominally, like folks that want to build an RIA that they completely run and own autonomously on their own.
Yep.
All the tech you need, all the compliance support you need. I mean, I kind of joke like, it's like take a broker dealer and remove all the products and all the FINRA.
Yeah.
And you take what's left.
Yeah.
Technology, compliance support, practice management support, and community of fellow advisors.
Yep.
And that's essentially what XYPN does. But because we don't have all the products of the FINRA, it's way, way, way less expensive. So instead of joining, corporate RIAs and other structures where you might pay 20 to 40% of your revenue, XYPN is a flat fee of about $500 a month, and you get all the tech and the compliance and the practice management resources and the rest built in. So we ended up being significantly less expensive than most platforms for the people that are like the most autonomous of the autonomous. I just want to run my own firm and do it exactly my way and not have to answer to other people. Like, great, we'll help you build the compliance manual and get state registered to do exactly what you want to do in the state you want to do for the clients you want to serve with the non-AUM or blended AUM or whatever business model that you want to charge, like your clients your way, doing your financial planning service model.
So that was like kind of the hourly fee only kind of RIA people. And then how did AdvicePay, how was that born?
Yeah.
And when?
So the big distinction I would give, and part of what we advocated then and still around XY Planning Network is, look, this is a relationship business.
Yep.
And most of the enterprise value of an advisory firm comes from its recurring revenue. Hourly doesn't have recurring revenue. It's very, very challenging to build and scale. It's very challenging to hand off clients because every year you wake up on January 1st, and your income is zero until you go and find people to pay you on an hourly basis. I mean, ironically, from a business model scaling end, hourly is very, very close to commission-based models. Right. Which is you wake up on January 1st, you got no money until you go get business. And so what happens is in traditional commission-based firms, like there's only two types of people in a commission-based firm: people who sell and admin who keep the salespeople out on the street longer. There's nothing else, because you don't take on more payroll than that when your income goes to zero every January 1st, and you've got to earn all the money all the year just to pay the people. And then like the last 2 months of the year, you make all your profits, like, with the industry equivalent of Black Friday. AUM has grown because it's recurring revenue. At some point you wake up on January 1st, I'm like, I got 25 million, I got 50 million, I got 100 million, I got 200 million, I got $1 billion. Like I have $10 million of revenue. When I wake up on January 1st, all I have to do is service the heck out of these 1,000 clients. Great. Let's hire like millions of dollars of staff to just be freaking amazing financial planning service people, and we'll have a wonderfully profitable business. So that's how AUM has grown so substantially over the past 20 years in the RIA model. And so we advocated the same thing. Like, look, if you're going to do one of these fee only models that's planning fee based,
Yeah.
much love to my hourly friends, but like, it's going to be a brutal grind that almost never scales if you do it hourly. If you want this to scale, you need recurring revenue. The way you build recurring revenue is with subscription. So an ongoing commitment. Again, we tended to advocate monthly just because it fits the cash flow of a lot of clients, but you can do quarterly and annual. I was raised in the life insurance world, so I know quarterly is the worst retention rate of policies when they pay quarterly.
Right.
So it's not much better on financial planning fee either. They get less sticker shock, right? Just very practically, you get less sticker shock when you bite size it down and it fits their cash flow better. So we were very subscription based from the start. The caveat per your question was, but there was no technology to do automated subscription fees for financial planners when we started.
Yeah.
And the very practical challenge is, what firms started doing was, there were a couple of just like generic payment providers out there, like predecessors even to Stripe, where I could just like get the client's credit card information or bank account information and then just like push the charge once a month.
Yep.
Except then the regulators get involved, like, oh, you've got client credit cards and bank accounts and ability to bill them directly. You have custody of their cash. Welcome to custody audits.
Yep.
Which you really don't want to do as a small state registered advisor. So the problem that started cropping up for members at XYPN was, well, we're doing this subscription thing, but we can't find a good payment processor. We found one that'll let us do it. We push the payments, but now I got a regulatory audit and the regulator says I have custody and I don't want custody. So ironically, I need a payment platform that is less capable because these things are all too flexible. And when I can do anything, the regulator is like, well, then you have custody.
Yeah.
So at XYPN, so we went to a whole bunch of the payment providers and said, here's what we need. Ironically, we basically need you to take your software and make it less flexible because we actually want to restrict access to the advisors so they don't trigger custody.
Yep.
And we got turned down by every single payment provider we talked to. So as entrepreneurs with my co-founder, Alan Moore, what do you do when you see a business need and you can't find anybody to build the thing for you? You say, well, screw it, then apparently I'm going to have to build it for myself. So we built AdvicePay originally to solve the subscription fee problem for XYPN members, announced it at our annual conference in 2015. The media covered it, and then a whole bunch of advisory firms started calling us and said, look, we don't really want to be an XYPN. We also do a lot of AUM stuff. We're not quite the as focused in the subscription fees as y'all are.
Yep.
But we want to work with younger clients as well, right? We're trying to diversify the age demographics of our clientele. Subscription seems to be a great way to do it. I don't want to join XYPN, but I actually need the payment thing you're making for your members. Would you let us buy it as well? So we got a couple of those calls really quickly, said, oh, shoot, I think this is actually going to have legs beyond XYPN. So we quickly separated out the software from XYPN, made it a standalone company called AdvicePay, and started offering it to the advisory industry at large. But that was the essence of it. It started with no one would build it for us at XYPN. So we said, well, I guess we're going to have to do it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. How long's, because AdvicePay is part of our tech stack as well. So we're a client and
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. How long has AdvicePay been around?
So we prototyped the software in 2015. That was when we announced it to members. We formally launched early 2016.
Okay.
So I guess depending whether you want to talk, date of incorporation or date of software launch, like about 9 or 10 years now that the software's been around. So, it's cash flow positive, almost a 40-person team that runs and does everything well. As some folks know out there, I'm slightly allergic to private equity, so I get very focused on how quickly can we get to the point that the company is self-sustaining. So we're well past that point now as well, and just reinvesting for growth and expanding capabilities out to the advisor world as more and more folks add in fees. There's still a subset that really want to be focused on working with younger clientele, and often they'll join XY Planning Network. But there's a much larger subset of firms that are like, look, I get some clients where I need to have some ability to do fee payments, right? Maybe I'm working with younger clients or children of clients. They don't have significant assets, but I want to get paid for the time it takes to service them. So they implement a monthly subscription fee because it fits their model. Some of us have more specialized clientele. I work with real estate investors. I work with business owners. One of the largest firms I've seen out there now, their name is Do Wealth. They actually came on our Financial Advisor Success podcast a couple of years ago. Their financial planning subscription fee starts at $10,000 a month.
Wow.
A month.
Yeah.
Their upper tiers are like 15 grand a month.
They went up market. Yeah.
They went up market. They work with business owners who have at least $1 million of EBITDA.
Yep.
Right. $1 million of EBITDA means you're probably working with someone who's 10, 20 plus million in net worth, depending on quite how big the revenue of the business is to get to that EBITDA margin in the first place. So, they work with multi-millionaires, business owners with a ton of complexity.
Yep.
And they're really good at what they do. So they built this ginormous firm that, with tens of millions of dollars of enterprise value and huge revenue, and it's all high-end subscription fees. So we see everything from that to like the firm that specializes in working with pastors for $100 a month.
Wow. That's great. That's cool. Hey, if I'm let's switch gears for a second, because you've made the journey from really starting with no experience, right? Straight out of college, through the industry, up to kind of like that level where you were even, working in the backstage to leading the backstage, to then move into the front stage and doing business development to now, arguably one of the best business development people in the industry, from a marketing business development side, as you mentioned. And so if you're talking to an advisor, because we subscribe to kind of that 5 rung of the career path, right? You got your client service associates, kind of entry level in the backstage, paraplanners, those are the 2 backstage levels. Then you go to like service advisor, associate advisor, second chair, kind of in that rung 3, then rung 4, lead advisor, rung 5, your practicing partner, and so on. And business development becomes more and more important, you know what I mean, as you get into the front stage and go up those rungs. But if let's say that I'm a rung 3, right? I'm maybe like 5 to 10 years in the business. I haven't made my way yet to lead advisor. What advice would you have to somebody, at that rung 3 level? I'm going to ask you the same question about rung 4 and rung 5.
So when I look at the progression, I think of it as essentially there's this series of skills that you're learning and mastering, and when you get good at that skill, you max out your current tier, and then you've got to do a substantively different skill to get to the next tier. So, right, if I start at CSA, just like I have to learn the operations, right? I just have to learn the guts of like how all the paperwork and money moves in and out and around the industry. I spent a stint of time in one of those roles as well. It was not the thing I wanted to stay with. I'm so glad I spent whatever it was, about 18 months in a role doing that, because I really learned how ACATs differ than non-ACATs and why it's still such a pain in the butt to do 401k rollovers, right? Just all this stuff that you learn by getting into the guts. Then you hit some version of paraplanner role, which to me is all about, this is where you learn and cement your technical knowledge, right? If you're going to do the analysis things, the analysis needs to be right so that the person above you can take your analysis and run with it in a client meeting and not be second guessing. Did you screw up the analysis and, come to the wrong conclusion or craft the wrong recommendation, right? So like, that's the learn and cement your technical knowledge. Then you move up to the point where you're starting to do service advisor work or associate advisor work, and you're more client facing. This to me, like, this is the relationship management tier. This is how do you actually sit across from a client and truly manage the relationship to retain the client. You have to get them. That's separate as you get the rungs, but you've got to be able to serve them well. So to me, it's a big distinction. It's like this isn't about the technical knowledge anymore. Congratulations, you need to know all the technical knowledge. Otherwise, you're going to give a wrong recommendation, get sued out of oblivion. But it doesn't cut it because you know the answer. You have to be able to deliver it to the client. You have to be able to get the client to act on it. You have to be able to talk the client off a ledge when they're freaking out. You just have to actually like manage expectations, right? How do you actually handle the client who repeatedly wants to meet in the evenings when you would like to meet during working hours?
Right.
Your ability to navigate that conversation successfully is an expression of actually managing the client relationship, not just responding reactively to whatever the client says when they say jump how high. True client relationship management is making that a mutual exchange and managing expectations and service levels.
Yep.
So there's a growth opportunity there. But then again, you hit a ceiling. Okay, congratulations. You serve clients incredibly well, but if you want to get to the next level is now the business development tier, right? It's some combination of marketing and sales, depending on quite how you or your firm tilts that. But it's now learning how to establish trust and rapport with someone who doesn't know you and has no relationship with you, and get to the point that they are willing to commit to an advisory agreement or possibly transfer their entire life savings over to your care because they have that level of trust that you are going to provide value to them and deliver something that's commensurate with the cost that you charge.
Yep.
So that to me is where that business development tier really starts to show up. I find this practical steps. It depends a little bit on the firm. Just some firms, they still have a marketing machine, but you have to learn how to sell.
Yeah.
So you might be looking at sales courses, and learning sales processes. Other firms are much more get out there and create opportunities for yourself. So you might be looking at joining Toastmasters, joining networking groups. How do you actually practice getting out there and getting seen and building relationships? Some of us like to build more of a marketing orientation, right? I've always been someone, because I started in the prospecting end and learned very quickly that is not my gift in this world.
Yeah.
I'm much more marketing oriented. So I would rather make the phone ring than go out there and find people to shake hands with, because then I have to like network at parties that I don't enjoy doing and going to, because that's very energy draining for me. So my version of it was, okay, how do I build some kind of marketing brand for myself that can demonstrate my expertise in the world and help attract people in? So I still have to sell them and close them, but at least my phone rings. I don't have to go out there and find them. So not everybody does that. Some are very good at getting out there. So if that's your natural gift, like, more power to you. No, nothing negative to it. But that was not how I was wired. So my business development path was learning about content marketing, learning about inbound marketing, trying to find ways that I can ultimately create opportunities to make the phone ring, as it were. In practice, like, how do I take an education-based approach where I get out there and just share how I can solve problems and bring expertise to people? Because I know if I do that with enough people, a bunch of people are going to read it and do it all by themselves, because they were frankly never going to hire me anyways. And then a few people are going to read it and go like, oh my gosh, this is way more complex than I realized. I think I need some help. And apparently this dude knows what he's talking about.
Right.
I think I'm going to call him. And that was how I built my career development path.
Michael, I know we got to kind of land the plane here. And so I want to thank you for being on here. And I think this was like a great way for people to really understand your journey, what your why, and, how the purpose-driven kind of organizations that you've built, and your areas of expertise, and kind of your journey that you've gone through, and great advice here at the end.
I always love opportunities to nerd out on pretty much anything I can get to nerd out on if it's financial planning related.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Michael, and we'll be chatting again soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Right. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for tuning in. This podcast was brought to you by C2P, an organization whose purpose is to educate, train, grow, and support holistic financial advisors so families can achieve true prosperity. Never miss an episode by subscribing now to discover new resources and strategies. Visit c2penterprises.com to learn how we can help scale and secure your business. At the time of delivery and any subsequent publishing, information was deemed reliable, but is subject to change by the time of listening or viewing. The contents of this piece include options and projections of C2P, are subject to change, and are for informational purposes only. The information provided in this presentation is not intended to be individual investment, tax, or legal advice.